Hello and welcome to Six Monkey Martial Arts. My name is Sifu Barber, and today we're going to go over 4 tips for Kung Fu mobility. Okay, Kung Fu mobility. So what does that exactly mean? So you need mobility for a lot of different reasons, for your stances, for your kicks, for your general footwork, and for your power. So today we're going to cover all 4 of those, so make sure you watch all the way to the end so you get a little bit of extra training for yourself. So the first one is flexibility. Now, in Tai Shing Pekwa, it has been mistaught that you need extreme flexibility, extreme splits, extreme yoga poses in order to practice Tai Shing. That's not true. What you do need, though, is some flexibility in order to just make sure that you're not going to get injured when you're training, make sure that you're getting the most out of your stances, and that you're getting the most out of your power, out of your striking, and everything like that. So I'm going to give you 3 tips, right? 3 stretches that I have all of my Monkey Kung Fu students do, and it's really great. It's going to help with alleviating some hip pain, some lower back pain, if you have those things, and most importantly, it's going to give you a little bit more extra fluidity with your stances and your transition between your stances. So the first stretch is actually really simple. We're going to come all the way back here, and it's just a kneeling stretch. Okay, so you're just going to put one knee on the ground, and you're going to lean as far forward as you can. You'll feel this coming all the way through your hip, through the top of your leg. Again, you don't have to go crazy far, right? You're not trying to, go extremely far. If your knees go past your toes, that is okay, as long as it's in line with your toe. If you want to take it a little bit step further, step out nice and wide, and just lean deeper into it. You'll even feel the inside of your groin here stretching out as well. Okay, so that's stretch number 1. You want to do everything on both sides, obviously, and just hold it for about 30 seconds. As you advance, you want to kind of do a little bit of pulsing through these stances. Just helps kind of loosen up that hip, kind of instead of being that long, elongated position. You want to just kind of shorten it, stretch it nice and slow. And again, we're not trying to go power through this. We're not trying to push ourselves to the max here, just to the point where it starts to get uncomfortable, and then just a little bit past that, holding for 30 seconds, and then we'll switch to the other side when you're doing your practice. So that's stretch number 1. Stretch number 2 is actually a really simple stretch, and it's probably one of my favorite stretches. Go as probably a little bit wider than shoulder width, and just come all the way down, touch the ground, bring your knuckles to the ground, bring your palms to the ground, right? And just hold that. And then as you advance, again, kind of finding ways to increase your flexibility, coming down to the opposite leg, forehead to the opposite knee. Hold it for 30 seconds, and you'll end up switching to the other side. Okay, so that's stretch number 2. Stretch number 3, again, another really simple stretch, is actually just putting your right leg out, right, or either leg, and I'm going a little bit wide here, and then just going to come grab that toe. We're stretching the calf, the hamstring, the Achilles, the lower back. It's all really good stretch. And again, you don't have to go crazy far. I'm most definitely not the most flexible person in the world, but enough to make sure that I don't get injured when I train. Pull all the way through, then you'll switch to the other side. Same thing, pointing that toe up to the sky, taking that rear leg back a little bit, just coming down and all the way through. Rear leg is straight, and just hold it 30 seconds. Again, you can kind of pulse into it as you advance. Cool. So that's your first 3 stretches. That's tip number 1. Okay, tip number 2. So we covered a little bit of flexibility. Now we're going to cover some mobility drills. So one thing I always tell my students, especially with Monkey Kung Fu, because you're in this low stance a lot for your training, for your forearms, for your line drills, for even some of your partner drills, you're just getting down in here and just kind of rocking back and forth, bouncing between each leg, a little bit front to back, right? Switch your stance. Just getting used to being down in this low stance. It's not about speed. It's not about power. It's just getting comfortable, right? You can't go from 0 to 100 all the time. You want to just kind of take your way into it. Okay, so that's the first part of our mobility drill, just getting down into this low monkey stance and just rocking back and forth. You want to add a little bounce into it. That helps as well. And again, we always practice everything on both sides. Okay, cool. So that's the mobility tip number 1. Mobility tip number 2 for increasing your stances and your power and all that good stuff is actually kind of unique. So what we're going to do is we're going to come a little bit high. We're going to come down to a lunge position. We're going to fold, drop our knee into it, pointing our front leg up towards the sky. Okay, and if you want to put a fist down to help yourself back up, that's fine. All right, you're just going to just twist back out of it. Again, down to this deep lunge. Switching back to the other side, twisting into it, and back through. One more time here, up to middle, and you can stretch in between these mobility drills as well. Just make sure that you're kind of warmed up a little bit. Here, down, twist into it, back through. And you don't have to hold these, just a little bit, just to kind of work your way into this mobility section, down to the side. All right, twist it in. All right, it's a really easy drill. Just take your time with it. You can really injure yourself doing these drills, so just, again, take your time with it. It's not about speed. It's not about how fast you can do it. Practice, do it right. The last mobility drill is actually sitting down here on your bum, and you can put a water bottle out in front of you. I typically just lift my leg up, over, down, up, over, back in. You're going to feel this work your hip flexors a lot. They're always an underworked muscle because we don't really use them much other than for our kicking and for a little bit of stretching. Up and through. And just 5 or 10 on each side. Just doing these every day, every other day is going to make a big difference on your hip drills, on your hip mobility, and just the power that you're going to be able to put into your kicks. And then once we're done with all those, we'll come back down here to that low monkey stance, just kind of bounce in place, rocking side to side, rocking forward and backwards. Again, just getting used to this drill. Last mobility drill you can add to this at the end, once you're plenty warmed up, is just kind of leaning forward and leaning back in this low monkey stance. And you kind of feel stretch here through your Achilles and through your calf muscle a little bit. And then we'll switch, other side. And again, I'm just making these as simple as possible. You can find on the internet a bunch of really complex mobility and flexibility drills. You don't need all that. You just need the basics to get started, and then you can always increase from there. Cool? All right, let's move on to tip number 3. All right, tip number 3. So the next thing we're going to cover is just the transitioning between stances. So in Tai Shing, we have 3 main stances that we work out of. We have our low monkey stance, okay, guard up. We have our tall monkey stance, and we have our light monkey stance, okay? And just literally just doing this, going into stance, to stance, to stance, to stance, right? People always try to go into like forms, line drills. Yeah, that's important. But going back to your basics, back to your original roots of when you started training, it's going to take you a long way and make you a lot more efficient than those who are also practicing that same martial art. Switch sides. We got our tall monkey stance, light monkey stance, low monkey stance. You can put them in any order. It really doesn't matter. Just making sure that you hit all 3 of these stances. And whatever, if you're not into Tai Shing, if you do another style, transitioning through whatever stances that you have, it's going to make a big difference, not just in your fluidity of those drills, but your power and your stability, the way you can root to the ground with all those different stances. All right, let's move on to tip number 4. All right, tip number 4. So the last part to this whole video here for all 4 tips, this is going to increase your mobility, your little bit of speed, a little bit of power, but more importantly, it's going to kind of add to your fluidity. I'm a big practitioner of being very fluid with all my styles, with all my different martial art moves, and that's because you want it to be flawless. It should look like a bunch of movements, right? It shouldn't look like a bunch of movements. It's like one fluid movement from start to finish. So like if you're doing your form, if an outsider is looking in, it shouldn't look like section 1, section 2, section 3. It should look like one fluid movement all the way through. One continuous drill where no one can really draw that line of, hey, there was this section here, this section here, this section here. One continuous movement. So how do we practice that without doing the actual form itself? Well, obviously the form is going to be the best way to do it. But another good way to do it is kind of working on your footwork, right? But changing your stances within that footwork, because we're not always going to fight in the same stance. Because you're always going to be on offense, not always going to be on defense, not always going to be in a low monkey stance, right? You're going to always be transitioning and moving between them. So the best way to get the fluidity for moving between them is to actually put it into practice. So I'm working on a basic stepping drill, right, with a tall monkey stance. I'll step, drop, back up. Step, drop, back up. Light monkey stance, drop. Light monkey stance, drop. Light monkey stance, drop. Changing it up as I move through all of them. Changing up between all 3, right? Go forward. 1, 2, drop, light, forward, right? And you can put them in any order that you want. You don't have to go all high, all low, back to offense, back to defense. You kind of mix it up, right? This is where the style portion comes into it, making it your own, making it based off of your fighting style. Make sure that you're hitting everything on that list. Make sure you're hitting your offensive stances, your defensive stances, your low monkey stances. All right, so if I'm practicing here, in general, if you need a little bit of guidance, I would go tall monkey stance, step on an angle, drop, light monkey stance, back on an angle. Don't worry about throwing punches or kicks into this. Just the absolute basics is all you need for right now. Okay, I'll switch sides here. All right, step on an angle, step back on an angle, step back on an angle, or maybe step low, step up, right? Changing up the way that I'm going to position myself. It's not always going to work in a straight line either. All right, there you have it. 4 tips to increase your fluidity, mobility, and flexibility for your Kung Fu stances. Combining all 4 of these, you will see a major difference, not just in the way that you move, but also the way that you feel after training. It's going to help prevent injuries, and most importantly, it's going to improve your overall performance. Hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to check us out on sixmonkeymartialarts.com. We have some cool merch there. We have a bunch of courses. We have a bunch of free videos as well. Like, subscribe, share, all that cool stuff. Helps support the channel so we can continue to make these videos for you guys. Okay? Awesome. Please train safely and wisely, and I'll see you next weekend.